Welcome back to Real-ationship Goals, a podcast all about exploring the realities and complexities of healthy relationships. Real-ationship Goals is a project of the Prevention and Education team at the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. If you or someone you know has experienced sexual violence or harassment and is seeking support services or needs more information, links to resources and our hotline number can be found in the description. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of their organizations or affiliates. Hey guys, welcome back to another new season, another new episode of Real-ationship Goals. It is season 7 and we are so glad that you're here. We have another awesome season ready for you and we have so many new faces and new voices for you to get to meet this year. So we're just going to jump right on in. I'm Kyla. I am the Prevention and Education Director here at the Advocacy Center. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Elsie, and I am a new prevention educator here, and I also use she, her pronouns.
Hi, everyone. My name is Monica. I am the prevention community organizer, and I use they, she pronouns.
Awesome. So like I said, we're so glad to be back with you. This is episode 2 of season 7, and we are jumping in with another awesome media analysis. And it was suggested that we talk about the song 29 by Demi Lovato. So we're going to be chatting about that, running through the lyrics, just kind of talking about them together, a little bit of background on this song. So this song is about Demi Lovato's relationship with another American actor, Wilmer Valderrama. Does that feel right, Tucker?
That
sounds great. Yeah, we're going to roll with that. So they started dating in 2010. They were together for
some years.
Yeah. I don't remember a ton. I feel like I wasn't very cognizant of celebrity relationships at that point.
Watch it be like, they were together for 6 months.
It felt like decades. Yeah, it felt like years in 2010. But so this song is a reflection from Demi Lovato on their relationship together. So we're just gonna go ahead, dive right in. I'll read us off verse 1. We'll get started. So verse 1 says, "Petal on the vine, too young to drink wine, just 5 years a bleeder, student and a teacher, far from innocent, what the blanks consent, numbers told you not to, but that didn't stop you." So we are out of the gate with some interesting stuff in this one. So yeah, so what are we thinking?
Well, the thing that stuck out to me the most, I mean, she talks about drinking wine, talks about consent, but I think while that's also all important, I think the thing that sticks out for me the most is 5 years of leader, because I feel like a lot of people think about maturity, at least in women, when it comes to their menstrual cycles. 5 years ain't that long.
No.
So I feel like she used a different aspect to put a better perspective on it.
That's true. Yeah, it's one that I feel like doesn't come up very often.
Yeah.
Very illustrative.
Yeah.
Like it just really paints an image of like, this is a very, like everything in this one feels like it paints a very vivid picture of this is a young person.
Yeah, like student and a teacher. Yeah.
That one's maybe say ick.
Yeah.
I mean, even like the petal on the vine
It's innocence.
Yeah, like it really, you said maturing when it came to the bleeding thing, and like it shouldn't just be a petal, like it should end up being a full grown flower. So I feel like that kind of like relates to the level of innocence.
Yeah.
And the one of the things that really stands out to me, I think, is the like far from innocent, what the blank is consent. Asking in this, because I feel like a lot of times also people try to justify, especially like relationships with teenagers or like older teenagers, if it's like, oh, but they're so mature for their age, oh well, they're acting a certain way,
Basically an adult.
Yeah, and it's like, well, that doesn't matter, especially whenever you consider I mean, well, it just doesn't matter. Point blank period. And legally, it does not matter in a lot of cases if they're under the age of consent. Doesn't matter. But even outside of that, like you can't consent to a relationship where the power dynamics are so severely uneven.
Yeah.
And one power dynamic is age difference.
Yeah.
And no spoilers, but there is quite an age difference between these two.
And I think before we move on to the next, I think it's interesting because Demi says numbers told you not to, but that didn't stop you. So it's like Wilmer knew, but didn't care. Going back to like the justification of it.
And that one just feels very like poignant of like strictly in numbers. Like if you were just looking at the numbers, like
it don't make no sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we want to roll into the chorus.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so the chorus, finally 29, funny, just like you were at the time, thought it was a teenage dream, just a fantasy, but was it yours or was it mine? 17, 29. And then there's some vocalization, and then again, 17, 29.
So yeah, that's the age difference, 17 and 29. So over a decade. Right? Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah, 12 years. Yeah, think about that. I was like, golly.
Well, the amount of time that someone spends in school,
Yep.
K through 12,
Mm-hmm.
or like first through 12th grade, that's an entire education.
Yeah, and then talking about like, was it a teenage dream? I feel like, yeah, that
really popular actor.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, I feel like that's used so often, like Teenage Dream. I think it's a whole Katy Perry song and all these things, and I just think it's interesting because I feel like when it in this case, or really in a lot of grooming situations, it's like, well, it's the younger person's fault. You know, they want to be older and all these things. So, you know, she was talking about, was it yours or was it mine? You know, he was a creep.
Because a lot of times in like grooming situations, it's like the younger person, the minor, the student, the child, whoever, is absolutely never ever at fault.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. I just don't care. They're not at fault.
Yeah.
Because as the adult, it is the adult's responsibility to shut that down.
Yeah.
Like, no questions asked. Like, it doesn't matter what they're saying. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It doesn't matter how they're acting. You as the adult, it is your job to shut that down. So that's always just oof.
Well, and I actually wrote a note on that too, that I thought it was a teenage dream, because looking at it with the first line, the student and a teacher, like I feel like that just really gives into kind of the manipulation of the whole situation. And how easy it was for her to believe that like that was right at the time. And so now getting this song when she's older and like had more time to reflect, like really seeing the underlying trauma and like what happened to her at that age.
And I feel like for sure. And I also feel like specifically, and I could be reading too far into it. I don't know, but specifically the like just a fantasy. Was it yours or was it mine? I'm just really hung up on that phrase fantasy because I feel like that is such a prevalent thing.
Yeah.
Is like the fetish.
Yes. Fetishization. Yes.
Normally I can say that word, but for some reason it is just not working today. But yeah, the fetish. Oh my gosh! Turning children. Yeah, turning children, or like specific like tropes of like schoolgirl, or just all kinds of things where it's the sexualization. That'll work. I can say that word of like specifically a lot of times like minor girls
with male teachers.
And that's such a common and often I would say like basically celebrated or glorified fantasy in like across pop culture.
Yep.
Like it's in TV shows, it's in books, it's in movies,
Yeah.
it's all over the place. So where it's like not only is it common, it's accepted and celebrated.
Yeah.
So that was just something that made me think about that was just a fantasy. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I just felt like it spoke to a lot of stuff, even just outside of the context of the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
On to verse 2.
Yeah.
That's me. Okay, verse 2 goes, had me in your grip, went beautifully with all my daddy issues, and he continues, I see you're quite the collector. Yeah, you're 12 years her elder. Maybe now it doesn't matter, but I know me better. Now I know better. And then it goes into the chorus again. So, okay, a lot to unpack here.
Take it away.
I mean, just talking about like daddy issues, that goes another part into putting the blame on a minor of like, oh, it's her, because it's usually put on a lot of young women. Mm-hmm. It's her daddy issues, or it's their whatever issues, it's their trauma. Like they're doing the blame is on them rather than viewing how the adult or the older person is taking advantage of that. And then it goes to saying, you're quite the collector, you're 12 years her elder. So it's a habit. It's a habit of his. Yeah.
Yeah, for the part that I want to talk about in this verse was you're quite the collector. And so the quite the collector reminded me of like listening or watching Criminal Minds. And there was this one episode that JJ like was going back to her hometown and she had this necklace that her sister had given her. And then like when they went back, they found out that like the necklace was given to the sister by a teacher who was in a relationship with the sister. And before the sister committed suicide, she gave it to JJ to protect her so that like the teacher assumed that like JJ knew what he had done. And so he just like stayed away from her. So like protected her from that situation, even though it like claimed her sister's life. So it was just kind of an interesting thing.
And also kind of speaks to like with that and like with the collector of like how so much of it's not like because a lot of times I think people, and I think of other shows and things like May December is another popular show. I think a movie show. I don't know. I think it's on Netflix.
I've been the only person. No, I've never seen it.
I haven't either. So I'm referencing a source material I have not watched.
Actually, I do. Is it with talking about the older female teacher and the student, and it got to where the actual people were like being interviewed.
Yes,
yeah,
and everybody got really weird vibes from it.
Yeah,
at least so. But like it makes me think of. Well, now I can't remember why I was thinking about that one, but there are several examples of folks that do things like this where it's I remember where I was going with this. I was going to say is a lot of times, especially the older person, the person with all of this power, is so frequently going to try to spin the narrative of like, but we're so in love.
Yeah.
Oh, but I love you so much. Like I just can't. Like really, it's all about love at the end of the day. Like age is just a number.
Yeah.
But it's actually a romantic thing. So they try to like excuse it. And I think sometimes it tries to get played off as, oh, well, this is an exception because we're so in love, so it's special.
Yeah. Whenever
really, a lot of times people that engage in these grooming behaviors can sometimes be more of a collector. This isn't a one-time thing. This is a repetitive behavior.
Yeah.
This is a pattern of behavior. Like these are behaviors that are in like deep in
like,
and the more they do that, the better they get at it. Yeah. And it just works out in their favor.
I have a celebrity in mind, like Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm not laughing because it's funny, but like laughing because it's known. Like
it feels absurd.
Yeah, and I forgot, and it's like an ongoing joke. And I forgot something turned 25 recently. Like Google. Yeah. Yes, Google recently turned 25, and they were like,
Mark saved.
Mark saved, yes, and things like that.
It's a very popular 25th birthday cake.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
almost had one for myself. Just
But it like goes back to what you were saying about it just being like so celebrated. Like
Yeah.
everybody, I mean, granted it's funny, but like it's not funny, you know?
And there's so many other people I have in mind. Golly,
it's just because it's such a common thing.
yeah. I was just like, golly, there's like a whole list of people that we can talk about who still have a platform type of thing because it's so normalized. But yeah,
Because a lot of people are immediately like to excuse away with, oh, well, they're of age or they're of age of consent. Because like in this song, I don't know exactly what state Demi Lovato was living in at the time.
Oh,
probably
yeah,
California. I don't know. I don't know what their like age of consent is in that state. But like in Texas, it's 17.
Yeah, and I know that she's born and raised in Texas.
Yeah. Okay. So so a lot of people want to argue away and be like, oh, well, because it's on paper legal, that means it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Whenever we know how deeply like power imbalance impacts the health of a relationship.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of things that people want to just kind of like brush aside because I think it's easier and because it's uncomfortable to talk about because we're forced to reckon with a lot of stuff. We're forced to reckon with the relationships of not necessarily like mine. I'm talking about like the royal we, our parents, like generations immediately above us or 2 generations above us. Like I think one of my great grandmothers got married at 12.
My goodness.
Right?
Sorry.
No,
it's golly, I can't imagine that.
Yeah, there's so few, like it's so close within our past.
Yeah.
So much of this is just so and you try to point out and be like, that's wild. It's like, oh well, that's just how it was. Then. It's like I could still feel heartbroken.
Yes.
That's the way it was.
It makes me think I watched the show Superstore, which is just like it's a comedy and they'll make jokes at kind of things like that. It makes me think of there was the manager there. Him and his wife have been married. I don't even know how many years, but he's talking about how they got together and he's telling the story and people around him, they're like, hey, that's kind of weird. And he goes, what? No, like I love her and blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, wait, it actually is weird. And he calls her and apologizes to her. But it's because like, I don't know. It is the whole, oh, it was different back in the day. But anyways,
it's I don't have anything bigger to say about it. I'm just kind of sitting in it.
Yes,
just that we don't talk about it. But
okay, so then it's the chorus, which we
the final chorus.
Oh, okay.
Which is a little different. Because it has the chorus normally, and then the final chorus is a little different. So it says, finally 29, 17 would never cross my mind. Thought it was a teenage dream, a fantasy, but it was yours. It wasn't mine. 17, 29. Ooh.
Something that well, no, okay. I was just gonna say I followed Demi Lovato a lot when I was younger, and it's so wild to think that this kind of what we were talking about just right now, like this happened in the public eye, and
all over. Probably all over Teen Vogue, Tiger Beat, all of those things. I'm sure it was everywhere.
And I wonder if anyone actually. So sorry, this is me being Miss Pop Culture, but I think someone actually brought it up either to him or to Demi during a radio show, and they seemed uncomfortable. And there was like justification of like, oh, we've known each other or we're friends or whatever. But I just can't imagine how it was to have to see that constantly, like reminders of those pictures can't go away.
Just re-traumatizing.
Yeah.
Too, especially just so often, I think, whenever you are the survivor or the victim of a circumstance like this, and it might not even feel like that, you just might be the younger person.
Yeah.
The person who has been wronged or harmed, I guess might be a better way to phrase it. By like a relationship like this, so much of it is just so normalized by our society that it might never be realized. It's like, oh, that was weird and negatively impacted my life. If that's ever realized, like years, if ever.
And that's what makes me think. I'm like, I mean, obviously her story is her story, but it makes me think of like what got her to that point to even make a whole song. And I'm sure a lot of people resonate with this song. Another thing that I wanted to point out was 17 would never cross my mind. I feel like when it at least like in personal experiences, like I just turned 25. My mom had me when I was 25. So I was like, dang, she had me when at this age. And so I think I'm like, I can't imagine having a kid running around, all these things. So for her to get to this age of 29 and literally be like, wow, 17? That's off.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Just wouldn't even like
literally would not cross your mind. I'm just like,
wouldn't even begin to think about it. Just it's so not an option. The majority of people, yeah, no, just would never even begin to think it would be normal or would even desire a relationship with.
yeah.
I love talking with our students. I love doing groups. I love things like that. Not even for a fraction of a second. Not even for a fraction of a second have I ever.
And I even think about like friendships. Like me being 24, I had a friend who was 21, which is literally just a 3-year difference.
Still feels weird sometimes.
It still feels weird. I'm like, I remember being in spaces with her. I'm like, dang, like we're only 3 years apart, but girl, you're young. Like we're both young, but like, yeah, you're young. You got some growing up to do. So I'm just like, 29, being like a 17-year-old, that's just too old to me.
But I really appreciate the shift in the final chorus of where it says like, but thought it was a teenage dream, a fantasy, but it was yours and it wasn't mine. Of just kind of, I guess, reconciling with that of like, because I think it can also feel like we said, so many people and like societally want to place blame on the younger person in these relationships and on like the teenagers in these grooming relationships. And it's like, well, if you weren't acting this way and like it's your fault for like entertaining that older man and things like that. And it's like so much of that turns into internalized victim blaming of this is my fault. I did this to myself. It's my fault for like pursuing this older guy. Maybe no. No, it is not. It is his fault for allowing that, for not shutting that down, for not being the adult.
And other adults around them. Another thing I was gonna say is like the conversation of grooming, it really shows like the intersection with gender too, because it was placed on Demi, the blame. And thinking about the May December, is that what it's called? The older person in the relationship was a female teacher, and even then, I remember seeing interviews where she was like, he was the boss. I'm like, this is a minor. High school, maybe early high school or something like that.
I was like, I know anything. I don't know anything. Like maybe I don't know.
But he was
a minor.
Solidly. Point period blank. For her to be like he was the boss, because and that is an intersection of gender. So I just think about that, because even I still think about how like everyone was asking her, asking Demi and all these things, but who was questioning Wilmer? I feel like I did see a post where they did question him and was kind of sweating, a little bit
weird about it.
Yeah. But he keeps on doing it. He's the collector. So, I mean, I guess no one's really stopping him in his tracks or correcting him.
I don't really know what he's up to now. So, and now I'm like, now I don't want to find out.
Absolutely.
I won't be doing no research after this because I think it'll just make me sad. I guess any other just kind of like final thoughts on the song? Anything that you want to touch on before we move on?
I do actually. Okay, so the last chorus, first off, I think is just like a really full circle moment to the whole song, which I really appreciate. And then also, like, I know that we're just reading it, but like when you listen to the song, like, and I don't know if it's any kind of editing or like genuinely, I think she just felt this, but like you can hear her voice cracking when she like is talking about this stuff. And I think, I don't know, I just think that really like helps bring more attention to the situation. And like I don't know. I just really
Very
liked
moving.
that. And I
Yeah,
wanted to mention
even when
it.
she performs it live. This is a really emotional song. Shout out to her. Like that's such a short way to put it, but like shout out to her for really sharing. I mean, she had no choice because she was in the public eye at one point, but like for her to make this song and share it with people, and people are gonna resonate with it. I just love her for using her platform for that. It's unfortunate that it happened.
Well, I guess if that is all of our thoughts, go ahead and wrap up for today's episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in and for joining us for this episode. We will, of course, be back next week with another awesome episode. But in the meantime, if you are just wanting a little bit more advocacy-centered content, you can follow us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention if you want more prevention content. If you just want to know what the agency is up to, you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Advocacy Waco. We'll see you there, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Real-ationship Goals. This episode was produced by the Prevention and Education Department of the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. Interested in more content from P&E or the Advocacy Center? You can follow us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention or on Instagram and Facebook at Advocacy Waco. Be sure to like this episode and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Bye.